Respiratory protection. Respiratory Protection 29 CFR 1910.134. 1910.13401. In the control of those occupational diseases caused by breathing air contaminated with harmful dusts, fogs, fumes, mists, gases, smokes, sprays, or vapors, the primary objective shall be to prevent atmospheric contamination. This shall be accomplished as far as feasible by accepted engineering control measures, for example, enclosure or confinement of the operation, general and local ventilation, and substitution of less toxic materials. When effective engineering controls are not feasible, or while they are being instituted, appropriate respirators shall be used pursuant to this section. 1910.134(2). A respirator shall be provided to each employee when such equipment is necessary to protect the health of such employee. The employer shall provide the respirators which are applicable and suitable for the purpose intended. The employer shall be responsible for the establishment and maintenance of a respiratory protection program, which shall include the requirements outlined in paragraph C of this section. The program shall cover each employee required by this section to use a respirator. Ten parts of an effective respirator program. 1. Someone in charge. Written program must be implemented by a trained program administrator. Must be qualified. Know the hazards in the workplace and if engineering controls can be applied. Identify types of respirators to be used, if engineering controls will not work. Update as necessary. Two. Medical evaluation. A respirator places a physiological burden on the employee. This burden varies with type of respirator worn, job and workplace conditions, medical status of the employee. Two. Medical evaluation consists of evaluating pulmonary, cardiovascular, body temperature, senses, psychological, irritation and allergy. The medical evaluation establishes the medical condition of the wearer, provided before initial respirator use, prior to fit testing and training, performed by a physician or other licensed healthcare professional, PLHCP. Must include any medical tests, consultations or diagnostic procedures PLHCP deems necessary. Three. Selection of the masks, hazard determination. Identify the contaminants and evaluate the hazards. Determine the physical properties of the contaminants. Identify areas of potential oxygen, O2, deficiency. Estimate or measure employees' exposure to the hazards. Assume IDLH, when not known. Three. Selection of the masks, hazards requiring respirator use. Oxygen-deficient atmosphere, does not contain enough oxygen to sustain breathing. Less than 19.5% by volume at sea level. Examples: confined spaces, silos, boilers, tanks, sewers. Immediately dangerous to life or health, IDLH, or unknown atmosphere. Three. Selection of the masks, hazards requiring respirator use. Chemical hazards. Overexposure to workplace contaminants such as dust, spray, fumes, vapors, smoke, harmful gases. Biological hazards. Exposure to organisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi and other living organisms. These organisms do not have exposure limits. Three. Selection of the masks, hierarchy of controls. Engineering controls, example, ventilation. Administrative/work practice controls, examples, rotating employees to reduce exposure time. Limiting the time someone can work in an area. Changing the way the work process is conducted. Personal protective equipment, PPE. Used when unable to eliminate or reduce the hazard sufficiently. Three. Selection of the masks, selection. Select the appropriate respirator based on the hazard, workplace and user factors. Select only NIOSH-certified respirators. Provide enough respirator models and sizes to correctly fit user. NIOSH, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Three. Selection of the masks. What is a respirator? A device that protects workers by purifying air or by providing an air supply, O2 deficiency or IDLH conditions. Two main types of respirators. Air purifying respirators remove contaminants from breathing air through a filter, cartridge or canister. Supplied air respirators provide clean air from an uncontaminated source such as bottle or compressor. Three. Selection of the masks, filtering face piece, dust mask. Negative pressure particulate respirator with entire or majority of face piece composed of a filtering medium. Captures particles in the air, such as dusts, aerosols, mists, and fumes. Filters will be labeled with a letter N, R or P and a number representing the efficiency, 95, 99 or 100. Does not protect against gases or vapors. Replace filters when the user finds it difficult to breathe. Three. Selection of the masks, respirators with combination cartridges. Full face piece and half mask. Used in atmospheres that contain both particulates and gases or vapors. Have both particulate filters and gas vapor cartridges or canisters. Not for use in oxygen-deficient atmospheres or atmospheres which have high concentrations of contaminants, such as IDLH. Breathing may become difficult because of the additional effort required to draw air through the purifying medium. Three. Selection of the masks, respirators with combination cartridges. Full face piece and half mask. Does not protect against airborne particles. Provides protection only as long as the filter's absorbing capacity is not depleted. Uses chemical filters, called cartridges or canisters, to remove specific dangerous gases or vapors. Service life of the filter depends upon many factors and can be estimated in various ways. Three. Selection of the masks, respirators with combination cartridges. Powered, air purifying respirator, PAPR. An air purifying respirator with a blower to force the ambient air through air purifying elements to the inlet covering. Can be a full and half mask face piece, helmet or hood. Use restricted to battery life and the fan and pack must be carried by the wearer at all times. Cannot be used in oxygen-deficient or IDLH atmospheres. Three. Selection of the masks, cartridge and canister labels and service life. Conditions affecting service life. Exertion level. Cartridge variability. Temperature. Humidity. Multiple contaminants. Only NIOSH approved. Labeled and color-coded. Label shall not be removed and remains legible. 4. Training and information. Required. Prior to requiring the employer to use a respirator. Annually. When changes in workplace render previous training obsolete. Employee use demonstrates inadequate training. Any other situation arises in which retraining appears necessary. 4. Training and information. Why the respirator is necessary and how improper fit, usage, or maintenance can compromise the protective effect of the respirator. Limitations and capabilities of the respirator. How to effectively use the respirator in emergencies. General requirements of the standard. (4) Training and information. How to inspect, don, doff, use, perform sealed checks. Maintenance and storage procedures. How to recognize medical signs and symptoms that may limit or prevent the effective use of respirator. (5) Fit testing. When is fit testing required? Before initial use. Annually, thereafter. When facial features change, such as with weight gain or loss, use of dentures. Note: employees wearing tight-fitting face pieces must not be fit tested if they have facial hair. (5) Fit testing. Qualitative fit test, QLFT, a pass/fail fit test to assess the adequacy of respirator fit that relies on the individual's response to the test agent. Must not be used if a person has no sense of taste or smell. Used for respirators requiring a fit factor of 100 or less. (5) Fit testing, quantitative fit test, QNFT. An assessment of the adequacy of respirator fit by numerically measuring the amount of leakage into the respirator, fit factor. Can be used for any type of respirator. Must be used for respirators requiring a fit factor of 500 or greater. (6) Maintenance and care. Cleaning and disinfecting. Respirators cleaned and disinfected at the following intervals. If exclusive use by employee, as often as necessary to be maintained in a sanitary condition. If shared by employees, prior to each use by different employee. If for emergency use, after each use. If used for training and fit testing, between each employee and at the end of each training/fit testing session. (6) Maintenance and care. Storage. Respirators must be protected from dust, sunlight, heat, cold, moisture, chemicals. Stored in a sealed container or bag. (6) Maintenance and care. Inspection. Check for holes in the filters. Loss of elasticity or tears in the head straps and hoses. Broken or loose connectors and fittings. Cracked or scratched face pieces. Detergent residue. Dirt in the valves. General cleanliness. Respirators maintained for emergency use must be inspected at least monthly and in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations and shall be checked for proper function before and after each use. (6) Maintenance and care. Repairs. Respirators that fail an inspection or are otherwise found to be defective are removed from service and discarded or repaired/adjusted. Repairs made only by appropriately trained persons. Use only respirator manufacturers' NIOSH-approved parts. 7. Use. Always put respirator on in clean air environment. Always seal check the respirator to make sure proper fit has been achieved for tight-fitting respirators. 2 types of user seal checks, Appendix B1. Negative seal check and positive seal check. Seven. Use. Respirators are only effective when the seal around your nose and mouth is tight. If you cannot achieve proper fit, do not enter the contaminated area. Facial hair is not allowed when wearing a tight-fitting respirator. Glasses cannot be worn with a full-face respirator. Spectacle kit required. Seven. Use. Leave the contaminated atmosphere if any of the following occurs. Smell or taste something out of the ordinary. Eyes or throat become irritated. Observe a change in breathing. Facepiece is leaking or other parts break. Alarm signaling equipment has failure or end of breathing air supply. Eight. Program evaluation. Conduct workplace evaluations. Consult employees concerning respirator fit, appropriate respirator selection, proper respirator use, proper respirator maintenance. Nine. Record keeping. Written program. Medical evaluations. Fit test records. Emergency use respirator inspection. 10. Voluntary use. For all respirators, the employer must determine that voluntary use is appropriate. Ensure that use of the selected respirator will not create a hazard. Provide employees with information in Appendix D. Appendix D to Section 1910.134, Information for employees using respirators when not required under the standard. For all respirators except filtering facepieces, the employer must establish and implement a written program to address medical evaluations, and training on maintenance, storage and care.